Welcome to Fantasia, home of the melodious. My name's Azallea, and today, gonna be bringing you guys another update to my Lunalight deck. So without any further ado, let's just jump right into this. So starting off, we are playing one copy of Lunalight White Rabbit. Now, White Rabbit is a great card to just normal summon, bring back another Lunalight monster from your graveyard, and then go for some fusion plays. She's very efficient in terms of what she does, and she also helps you bounce back some of your opponent's back row before you go into your major plays. So that's why she's a one-of here. Because of the fact that Kaleido Chick is out, she competes with Kaleido Chick for the normal summon, at least in the pure variant. So having one is okay for toolboxing purposes, but having more than that just kind of clogs, especially because of the fact that you can always add her from the graveyard back to your hand with something like Lunalight Black Sheep. So speaking of Lunalight Black Sheep, we of course have to play 3 copies of Lunalight Black Sheep. She combos really well with White Rabbit, and Black Sheep is just like the centerpiece of the deck in terms of helping you generate advantage and search or polymerization. So that's why we have to run 3 copies of her. So the next card, in conjunction with the Black Sheep, that also helps us generate advantage, as well as set up plays with our graveyard, with 3 copies of Lunalight Kaleido Chick. So Kaleido Chick helps you basically just send any Lunalight monster from your deck to the graveyard, helps you set up for rank 4 plays, helps you set up for potential monsters that you might not have in your graveyard. So if you want to get White Rabbit into circulation quicker, you can send the White Rabbit, and then when you fusion summon with like your Lunalight Black Sheep, you can easily go ahead and add that White Rabbit back. So Kaleido Chick's effect is actually a cost. The effect to send a Lunalight monster from your deck to the graveyard. So even if she's negated by the effects of something like Lunalight Tiger, if you bring her back with Tiger's Pendulum Scale effect, she can still actually send the Lunalight. So there's a lot of neat little interactions that you should be aware of when you're playing this deck. Alright, so moving on, we are also playing 3 copies of Lunalight Blue Cat. Now, Blue Cat is the floater for the deck, so if she's destroyed battle by card effects, you can special summon any other Lunalight monster straight from your deck. Usually, if you're just trying to ward off your opponent's attacks, you'll float into multiple Blue Cats, and after the last attack of your opponent, you might want to consider summoning something like Lunalight Kaleido Chick, because Kaleido Chick can help you set up for more plays, and she can also, of course, recover things like polymerization if she's used as fusion material, or basically just sent to the graveyard with a card effect. So Blue Cat is phenomenal for helping you reach your Kaleido Chick, especially in the pure variant where you might not have that as much consistency as you do if you were playing other engines like Armageddon Knights and things like that. Okay, so moving on, we are also playing 1 copy of Lunalight Crimson Fox. People like to play 2. I think 2's a little too much. You don't really need her to go for game most of the time, because the fact that your Lunalights can easily get very big with your Lunalight Blue Cat's effect. Of course, when Blue Cat special summoned, you can double the attack of one of your other Lunalight monsters. So Leo Dancer can reach like 7,000 attack. It's fairly easy to swing for game. Crimson Fox is really only here as a targeting protection. So she's one of the best targets to just send with your Kaleido Chick to the graveyard. And if you have your Panther Dancer on your side of the field, normally Panther Dancer's major weakness is that she can be targeted. But with Crimson Fox in the graveyard, you can easily protect your Panther Dancer, and so you don't have to invest all of your resources to go for that Leo Dancer play. You can kind of play safely with the Panther Dancer until you until your opponent forces your hand, so you have to actually create Leo Dancer to swing for game. So that's why I really like just 1 copy of Crimson Fox. Don't really like seeing multiples. I don't like drawing into her. I just usually send her straight from the deck to the graveyard. Okay, so next off, another card that you just never want to draw into and you want to send from the deck to the graveyard is going to be 1 copy of Lunalight Purple Butterfly. So Purple Butterfly is in here because the deck doesn't really have too many ways of getting rid of monsters in the hand if you're opening with multiple like Blue Cats, Kaleido Chicks, and things like that. So Purple Butterfly is just a great card to send with your Kaleido Chick, and you can banish it from your graveyard to special summon a Lunalight monster from your hand. So if you summon the Blue Cat from your hand, you can double the attack of one of your fusion monsters. If you summon another Kaleido Chick, you can send another Lunalight monster, preferably something like Crimson Fox, from your deck to the graveyard. It's just very good utility and a nice little tech to have at 1 in the deck. She also has the effect where if she's in your hand or on your side of the field, you can discard her and then target 1 Lunalight monster you control and it gains 1,000 attack, but really that effect never really comes up. You really want to use her for the graveyard effect, so she's there at 1 for that. Okay, so next off, we are also playing 3 copies of Lunalight Tiger, and Lunalight Tiger is just probably one of the best cards in the deck. Tiger, Black Sheep, and Kaleido Chick just make the deck work so well. And Tiger helps you, basically acts as a monster reborn, just brings back whatever you need from the graveyard so you can use it as fusion material, so you don't go minus for all of your fusion plays. And her monster effect is if she's destroyed by battle or by card effect, so this includes when she's in the pendulum scale, so if she gets MST, Twin Twisters, or things like that, you can just target one Lunalight monster in your graveyard and special summon it. And it's just phenomenal, because you can always bring back something like Cat Dancer, Panther Dancer, and what have you. So people usually don't read, so you can take advantage of that. And if they try to pop your Lunalight Tiger in your pendulum scale, you get some free advantage out of it. Okay, so the last Lunalight card that we play is going to be 1 copy of Lunalight Wolf. Some people like to play 2, I only like to play 1 because you can always recycle this card with your Black Sheep. If you send it from your deck to the graveyard with Kaleido Chick, you can use Black Sheep and just add it from the graveyard back to your hand. So it's like a way of searching it, I guess you could say. It's a roundabout way of doing it, but it's definitely very consistent in this deck. And of course you can search this with things like a Lunalight Perfume as well, so there's really no problem getting to it. And even if your opponent destroys it, it's fine, because if you use Black Sheep as a fusion material, you can still add the Lunalight Wolf from your extra deck back to your hand, so it really doesn't matter. You can play 2 if you'd like, but I just find that you don't really need it early game. The only time I really use Wolf is to summon Leo Dancer and then swing for game, just randomly, turn 3 or 4 into the duel. You just summon Leo Dancer and just clear everything out. But other than that, she's really only there as a scale for pendulum summoning with, so she's alright. Okay, so next off, we're just going to go into some of the text that I play into this deck. This is a pure build, so I'm not playing things like Armageddon Knights or anything like that, but we of course have to play 1 copy of Blackwing Gofu the Vague Shadow. Gofu is just a great way to help open up some extra monster zones for you to summon your Lunalight fusions to. So if you summon your Gofu, you can easily go for Proxy Dragon, then Decode Talker, and that opens up 2 extra zones where you can summon your fusions, potentially XYZs, and things like that too. It's just a really nice power play that helps you generate some advantage. And then the last 4 cards that we play are going to be hand traps, 3 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, just too good not to play. Excellent disruption for your opponent, getting rid of their field spells, monster effects are activating on the field, and things like that. Definitely worth playing 3. And then 1 copy of Max C. This is just to deter your opponent from special summoning. So if they, stop mid-combo, they're probably going to die because you're playing Lunalights. And if they go off and they let you draw a bunch of cards, they're probably going to die because you're playing Lunalights. So Max C is just way too good not to play. Alright, that does it for all of the monsters, so next off we're going to go into the spell cards. Alright, so for the spell cards, starting off we are playing 3 copies of Fire Formation Tenki. Of course, you have to play 3 copies of Tenki. This searches out any Lunalight monster in your deck except for Lunalight Wolf, because she is obviously not level 4 or a lower monster, but this is just way too good to not play 3 of, because of course it's your searcher. Now, speaking of consistency in terms of searching, we also have a lot of draw power because we are playing 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. People are iffy on this card. Some people like it, some people don't. In a pure variant, it really doesn't matter if you're banishing cards because you're basically a glass cannon. You're going to try to swing for game as fast as possible with Panther Dancer or Leo Dancer. Allure of Darkness just helps you get there that much quicker. If you're drawing extra copies of Blue Cat, if you have Kaleido Chicks that you've recovered from the graveyard after you use Black Sheep's effect to add it back, you can just use Allure of Darkness, banish it from your hand, and when Kaleido Chick's banished, you can activate her effect that your opponent can't activate anything during the battle phase. So Allure of Darkness just has some pretty neat bits of synergy with some of the monsters, so that's why I play 3 of those. Again, this is a glass cannon build. You're trying to swing for game as fast as possible. This just helps you get there. Of course, this wouldn't be Lunalights if we weren't playing some fusion cards. We're playing 2 copies of Polymerization, the main fusion spell of the deck, and in conjunction with that, we also play 1 copy of Fusion Substitute. I like playing Fusion Substitute because I like being able to draw an extra card. It's just some more utility. You're going to find that more often than not, you're going to have 2 monsters on the field that you can fuse with, and it's just much more economical to go for a Fusion Substitute than a Polymerization in those cases, because you do have the ability to recover some fusions and potentially draw into some more cards. So there's that. I really like it. You should try it out. If you've always been a fan of just 3 polymerizations, you can do that as well. But highly recommend you try Fusion Substitute. It's way too good. Alright, so next off we're playing 3 copies of Lunalight Perfume. Perfume is another monster reborn in the deck, except this is a spell version, and it doesn't come with a lot of restrictions like Lunalight Tiger's Pendulum Scale effect. So Lunalight Perfume, just target a Lunalight monster in your graveyard, special summon it. You can also special summon Cat Dancer and Panther Dancer, so that's why this is also phenomenal. If you are, getting rid of things in your extra monster zone, perhaps you fused with a Cat Dancer and another Lunalight monster for your Panther Dancer, you can then use Perfume to revive the Cat Dancer back from your graveyard. So it's just a nice way to swarm the field with some very powerful monsters and working around the new Link mechanic. Right? Lunalight Perfume also has the effect where you can banish this card from your graveyard and discard 1 card to add 1 Lunalight monster from your deck to your hand. This is a great way for getting rid of some dead cards in your hand, potentially discarding another copy of Perfume in your hand. You can search for things like Lunalight Wolf or an extra combo piece like Tiger or Black Sheep. Whatever you just need at the moment, you can grab. And it's also not once per turn, so you can, if you have multiple of these in your hand, you can revive a bunch of monsters in 1 turn and go for multiple searches in that same turn as well. So Lunalight Perfume is a very versatile card. Okay, and then next off, we're playing some form of spell and trap removal in the main deck. So I'm playing 3 copies of Twin Twisters. You can play things like Cosmic Cyclones, Mystical Space Typhoons, whatever you have. I prefer playing Twin Twisters and Lunalights because this version, this pure variant, is a glass cannon, which means basically you kill your opponent or you're gonna die. So Twin Twisters just makes it so if your opponent is playing any form of back row, you just get rid of it immediately. You don't have to risk your normal summon off of something like White Rabbit in order to bait things out. You can just get rid of all the Solemn Strikes, Solemn Warnings, anything of that sort with the Twin Twisters, and then go for your plays. So that's why that's there. We're also playing additional draw power in conjunction with the Allure of Darkness and the Searching from Tenki. We're also playing 2 copies of Pot of Desire. So you're probably wondering, well, Pot of Desires is kind of risky because you have a lot of 1-ups, Crimson Fox, Purple Butterfly, Lunalight Wolf, Lunalight White Rabbit. That's true, but you don't always need those to go for game in a particular situation. In more cases, more often than not, you're going to really only need like 1 or 2 of those cards. You're not always going to need the Purple Butterfly, you're not always going to need the Crimson Fox. Lunalight Wolf's fairly easy to search out, and White Rabbit, of course, again, easily accessible as well. And if you really wanted to preserve those cards, you can easily send them to the graveyard with Kaleido Chick first, and then go for your Pot of Desires, but this just helps you get there. Getting 2 additional cards really helps speed up this deck, and helps you achieve your goal of basically smacking down your opponent as soon as possible. So 2 copies of Pot of Desires is pretty nice. I wouldn't play 3. 3 gets a bit cloggy. You don't really want to draw into a copy of Desires when you play your first one, so that's why I only play 2. Okay, so to cap off these spell cards, I play 1 copy of Foolish Burial, and then of course, Foolish Burial is there to send whatever you need. You can also send stuff and then bring it back with Lunalight Tiger. It's just a fairly decent overall catch-all card. You can trigger things like Kaleido Chick's effect, where you can recover Polymerization by sending it to the graveyard of Foolish Burial. You can also trigger Crimson Fox's effect, where you can just target 1 monster your opponent controls and make its attack 0. So Foolish Burial also has that utility as well. And then to cap things off, I play 1 copy of Raigeki as like a board wipe. Pure Lunalights, of course, you're trying to go second. That's why there's a lot of going second cards like Twin Twisters, Raigeki, and things like that. Just clear out the opponent's field, monsters, spells, and traps, whatever, and then try to go for as much damage as possible on your turn. So yeah, that does it for these spell cards. That does it for the main deck. We don't play any traps because, again, we are going second deck and we're trying to kill our opponent as soon as possible. So next off, we're going to go into the side deck. Alright, so for the side deck, starting off, we are playing 3 copies of Denko Sekka. Denko Sekka is phenomenal for when you're going second, because you can potentially lock out your opponent from using all of their back row. If they have things like Solemn Strike, Dimensional Barriers, and things like that, they can't even activate it when you normal summon your Denko Sekka. The only thing that they can do is Solemn Warning it, but, you know, drawing 1 card in an opening hand of 5 is very unlikely for your opponent. If they're even playing it at all. Okay, so the next card that we play is going to be one copy of Dark Hole. Dark Hole is here to accompany the Raigeki that's in the main deck, just in case we need extra board wiping potential. If your opponent is playing a very spam-heavy based deck that gets a lot of powerful monsters on the field with disruptive effects, it's very easy to clear it out with Dark Hole and Raigeki. Okay, so next card that we play is going to be 3 copies of Wavering Eyes. Wavering Eyes is very good in this deck, actually, because it helps you search out your Lunalight Tiger or your Lunalight Wolf. Now, this isn't going to be in the main deck because of the fact that we only play 4 Pendulum scales, so this is only really useful if you're in a Pendulum matchup, if you're playing against Pendulum Magicians, Metal Foes, and things like that, which are very popular on the casual front. Wavering Eyes is definitely a good option to go for. Just keep in mind that if you're destroying your opponent's Magician scales with Wavering Eyes, most of them have floating effects, so you have to make sure that you're playing around those as well. But if you're scared of those effects, you just don't want them to go off, but you still want something that's good to side against Pendulum Magicians and things like that, you can always go ahead and side in 3 copies of Magical Spring. So Magical Spring is a very powerful draw card, and it's great against Magicians because they have continuous spells, continuous trap cards, and they have their Pendulum scales. So assuming they have those up, you can get this effect. You can draw a number of cards equal to the number of face-up spell and trap cards your opponent controls, then discard a number of cards equal to the number of face-up spell and trap cards that you control, and then your opponent's basically spell and trap cards cannot be destroyed and their effects cannot be negated. But that doesn't really matter because the fact that if your opponent has all that stuff up, if they have potentially 3 or 4 face-up continuous spell or trap cards with scales included and things like that, you can draw 3 cards, 4 cards, and then just discard 1. So it's even better than something like a Pot of Greed at times. And that's really all you need in this deck. It's just more draw power to get into your combo pieces, so you can go ahead and smack down your opponent's stuff. Even if they have disruptive trap cards that you can't get rid of, things like their time pendulum graph or whatever, it doesn't matter, because if your stuff gets destroyed, you still have Lunalight Tigers, you have Lunalight Perfumes, you can keep bringing stuff back and just swarming the field, and you can very easily overcome your opponent's board and OTK with your Panther or Leo Dancers. So that's why this card is just absolutely phenomenal. Okay, so the next card that we play is one copy of Eradicator Epidemic Virus. So I play a couple of trap cards in the side deck, just in case you're forced to go first, so you just have some options available to you for that. So with Eradicator, you can easily call spell or trap cards after you tribute off a dark monster with 2,500 or more attack, and then you get to destroy all of them on the field in your opponent's hand, and then you also get to check every card they draw until the third turn after this card's activation. So not only does this give you a lot of knowledge about what your opponent has in their hand and what they're drawing, but it also gets rid of a lot of potential threats. You know, if you know your opponent's playing a lot of trap cards against you, you can go ahead and use this to destroy all of those cards that they probably sided in. If they're playing a very combo-heavy deck with a bunch of spells, you can hit those and just hinder their ability to come back and try to overcome your field that you established first turn. So it's a very, very nice card. Now, the 2,500 attack point threshold, Lunalight Cat Dancer is the easiest one to access, of course, just with 2 Lunalight monsters, and she has 2,400 attack, but under Fire Formation Tenki, she does have 2,500. It's not really difficult to reach that threshold, and fairly easy for you to just meet the conditions of Eradicator. Now, the next virus that I play is actually going to be 2 copies of Deck Devastation Virus. I'm not playing Full Force Virus because Deck Devastation hits monsters based on their attack. So, same thing as Eradicator, you have to tribute a dark monster, but this time it's one with 2,000 or more attack, which is a much easier threshold to reach. And then you get to check your opponent's hand, all monsters your opponent controls, and all cards that they draw until the third turn after this card's activation, and destroy all monsters with 1,500 or less attack. So not only does this hit a lot of smaller monsters that are very common in combo decks, like with Trickstars, they have Lycoris, they have Lilybell, and things like that. You're also hitting a lot of hand traps. You're hitting the Ghost Ogres, the Ash Blossoms, the Maxies, Droll Lockbirds. You're hitting all of the hand traps with this. So if your opponent's trying to grind you out because they know you're a Glass Cannon deck and you hit all of the hand traps they draw into, you're going to be in a very solid position because Lunalights really their only weakness is disruption, because we are a very heavily based OTK deck, at least the pure version is. So having a reduced risk of running into those types of cards is just phenomenal for you. Alright, so moving on, we're playing 2 copies of Dimensional Barrier in the side. This is really the last card. This is the catch-all card that you can just side in for most of your matchups. You know, it hits things like Rituals, Pendulums, Synchros, Fusions, and XYZs. So it basically hits the entire spectrum except for Link monsters. You can side this against Pendulum Magicians. You can side this against a lot of other casual rogue decks that you might see at your local tournaments and stuff like that, or that you might be playing against with your friends. So Dimensional Barrier is a really disgusting card, but hey, it's legal, so why not play it, right? Okay, so that does it for the side deck. Next off, we're going to go into the extra deck. Okay, so for the extra deck, starting off, we are playing 1 copy of Proxy Dragon. Proxy Dragon's mostly just here because we do play Gofu, so you can use 2 of the Gofu tokens to make the Proxy Dragon, and then you can use the Proxy Dragon and the Gofu to go ahead and make your Decode Talker. And this is just a power play that we can go for. It opens up 2 extra zones. As you can see, Decode Talker has a bottom left and bottom right marker, so you can go for more than 1 extra deck monster at a time. It won't come up too often, but it comes up often enough that it can allow you to set a pretty decent field if you do have it. And then the last Link monster that I play, because we don't really go for too many Links in this Glass Cannon type build in a pure variant. You just want to make your Panther or Leo Dancer and kind of just sit on that for most of the duel. But we also play 1 copy of Akashic Magician, and Akashic Magician is very nice because you can just use 2 monsters with the same type, except for tokens. So because all of the Lunalights are Beast Warrior type monsters, it's fairly easy to summon her out, especially with something like White Rabbit. You can normal summon White Rabbit, bring back something from your graveyard, go ahead and make Akashic Magician before you go ahead and play your fusions. You can summon your fusions, of course, under the Akashic Magician as well, so that's very nice. So yeah, that does it for the Link monsters. Nice and simple list. Next off, we're going to go into the XYZs for our toolboxing. So starting off the XYZs, we play 1 copy of the Phantom Knights of Cursed Javelin. Because we are playing Lunalight White Rabbit, it's fairly easy to make a rank 2, because White Rabbit plus Black Sheep can easily make this. And this is a pretty good card in Lunalights, because what you can do is attach 1 XYZ material from this card, then target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. Until the end of this turn, change its attack to 0. Also, it has its effects negated. So this makes it so it's very easy for you to OTK into your opponent with even something like Cat Dancer. You're going to be dealing a lot of damage with her. Panther Dancer and Leo Dancer, of course, are more optimal, especially combined with this, but, you know, you might be short on resources if you're going into this, but Cat Dancer can also easily deal at least 5,000 damage to your opponent if you're using Cursed Javelin. So it's a very nice surprise factor in the deck, and it also negates that monster's effect. So if there's a problem monster on the field that you really need to get rid of, this is your solution to that. Okay, so moving on, we're going to go ahead and play 1 copy of number 41, Baguska, the Terribly Tired Tapir. Now, Baguska is just here. Now, if we brick, if you're opening with Kaleido Chick and a former revival like Lunalight Tiger or Perfume, it's pretty simple to go into Baguska, kind of sit on him for like a turn or 2, see if you can draw into some cards that can help you potentially fix your hand, things like Allure, Desires, and stuff like that. But Baguska is a fairly decent stall card, and it really doesn't impact us that much. We just wait for it to run out of materials before we just go for a big push. Okay, so the next card that we play is going to be 1 copy of Brotherhood of the Fire Fist, Tiger King. So if you have Kaleido Chick, you can normal summon Kaleido Chick, send something like Crimson Fox or Blue Cat, then use your Lunalight Tiger or Perfume to bring back the Blue Cat or the Crimson Fox, and easily overlay into the Tiger King, which sets a Fire Formation Tenki straight from your deck, so you can go for an additional search there. And Tiger King is also a Beast Warrior type monster, which is pretty nice, because then what you can do is just use it as a material to with another Lunalight monster to summon Akashic Magician, and that opens up an extra monster zone so you can go ahead and fusion summon and things like that. So he's just a very good play enabler. He helps you with additional searches and things like that. He also acts like a mini skill drain for anything that's not a Beast Warrior type monster on the field, so you can obviously use its effect by detaching 1 of your Lunalights for that, and not only does it put back, you know, the Kaleido Chick into your graveyard, but it can potentially negate a lot of your opponent's powerful monsters. Okay, so next card that we play is going to be one copy of Tornado Dragon. This is just pretty standard spell and trap removal toolboxing options. In case you don't draw into your Twin Twisters or something like that, you can always summon the Tornado Dragon to get rid of some back row. It's especially good coupled with something like Decode Talker, because then what you can do is you have Decode Talker with a potential fusion monster on your side of the field, and then you have Tornado Dragon to prevent your opponent from doing anything with their set cards. If they set like 1 or 2 cards, you can always just pop them with Tornado Dragon, so on your turn, they're going to have no back row, and you can easily just swing for game. Talking about swinging for game, actually, and doing mass amounts of damage, we also have toolbox options in the form of Utopia. So we're playing one copy of number 39 Utopia, and then we're following that up with number S39 Utopia the Lightning. This is just in case we don't have access to our fusions, but our opponent's very close to losing the duel. They have some smaller monsters on their side of the field. Utopia Lightning is phenomenal for just smacking into something with low attack and stealing the game, because Lightning be able to go up to 5,000 attack is just ridiculous. And this deck is focused around getting game as soon as possible, so having additional access to powerful monsters that are not just the Lunalight fusions is very good. Now, speaking of that, we're going to go into the fusions. We're going to talk about another monster that's just very, very strong, very powerful big boss monster that you can use to swing for mass amounts of damage as well, and that's going to be Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. So Starving Venom, if this card is fusion summoned, you can actually gain the attack of a special summon monster that your opponent controls, so this thing will be smacking your opponent for a lot of damage. You're going to be attacking for at least 2,800 damage, so that's going to be very nice. You can also copy the effect of a monster that has level 5 or higher on your opponent's side of the field. So if your opponent's potentially, let's say for example, playing something like Pendulum Magicians and they left an Ignister on their side of the field, you can easily copy the Ignister's effect, potentially pop your own Lunalight Tiger, shuffle something your opponent controls back into the deck, and then be attacking for a lot of damage. So Starving Venom's pretty good, and also if this card is destroyed by a card effect, you can just destroy all special summon monsters that your opponent controls. So it's like a mini Raigeki built in if it ever dies. So yeah, he's a pretty good card with 3 amazing effects. So next off, we're going to go into the Lunalight fusions. I am playing 2 copies of Cat Dancer. Just requires 2 Lunalight monsters to summon. Fairly easy to make, but I hate attacking with this card. Hand traps are very prevalent right now, and Ghost Ogre is one of the more popular ones. And because Cat Dancer's effect to activate to burn your opponent for 100 damage is mandatory when declaring an attack, your opponent can easily just Ghost Ogre it, and then you lose your Cat Dancer, which really sucks. So that's why I like to go for my Lunalight Panther Dancers, which I played 2 copies of, to swing for most of my damage during the game. Panther Dancer is just much stronger because Cat Dancer can't be destroyed by battle, but that doesn't really come up too often. Panther Dancer can't be destroyed by card effects, which is a much better effect to have, especially when you're attacking into your opponent's stuff, right? Because Cat Dancer's protection effect, why do you need to be protected by battle if you get to choose who you're attacking? You're probably not going to be attacking to your opponent that has a bigger monster than you, right? So Panther Dancer is just phenomenal. 2,800 attack is also really good threshold. If you double it with your blue cat, it goes up to 5,600. You're going to be dealing a lot of damage. And then last but not least, we're going to be playing 1 copy of Lunalight Leo Dancer. Some people like to play 2. I don't like it at all. 2 never really comes up ever. And if you do need to summon the second one, you can always use your fusion substitute in your graveyard, banish it, put the Leo Dancer back into your extra deck, and then summon it again. So it's not that difficult. She's really only here to come out during mid to late game. And I say mid to late game, but that's really going to be like turns 3, 4, 5, where you just summon the Leo Dancer out and then you just swing for game out of nowhere. Very good card, especially coupled with Blue Cat, because that boosts her up from 3,500 to 7,000 attack points. Alright, so that does it for the extra deck, and that does it for the deck profile. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful, please leave a like, subscribe for more Lunalight content, and leave a comment down below letting me know what I can do to improve. And until next time, take care.